Cool. I'm Sadie, and I'm currently a senior in high school. I've been in this kind of like project-based learning ever since I was in kindergarten. When I was a kid, my brother and my sister kind of got started in this. My mom's a teacher, and my dad was kind of doing his own entrepreneuring stuff, and they saw that this kind of schooling was really important that they wanted for us as kids, and they're super invested in our education and wanting us to have a good life. So that's why I started going here. My family's super close ever since I was little. I have an older brother who's around 3 years older than me, and he's at Berkeley right now. And I have an older sister who's around 8 years older than me, and we've always been a super close and tight-knit family. We love spending time together, and it's gonna be really hard when I go off to college because definitely gonna be less of that. Yeah, I think when I was in elementary school, I was super shy and quiet, kind of just trying to get through school. And I'm a super observant person. So I spent most of my time just listening to the teachers and watching the students around me because I didn't feel necessarily super comfortable speaking my mind in class or anything because I was so busy watching everyone else. And I think that kind of carried on to middle school. And then in 7th grade, I went to Finland with my mom on this, it's called a Fulbright scholarship thing. She was researching education in Finland, and I was told I had a choice of whether or not I could stay here with my friends or go to school in Finland. And I wanted to stay here, of course, because I wanted to be with my friends. But then they're like, no, it'd be a great experience. So then I went with my mom. And it was definitely a hard time for me because I didn't want to be there. I was super homesick. It was the first time I had to go to school on the first day and not have someone that I knew right next to me. I always was able to go through school with a friend, or especially my brother, since we're so close in age. And so it was a really tough time of transitioning into kind of figuring out who I was and feeling comfortable doing things by myself, especially because my mom was out doing research and stuff by herself. But when we came back because of COVID, we were going to be there for 6 months, and then we were only there for 3 months. And when we came back, I definitely felt like I had grown as a person, and I felt more confident in doing things that were outside of my comfort zone. Especially in high school, I kind of realized this is the time to do all the things and kind of grow into myself. And I think my freshman year, I was kind of still struggling with that and falling back into the old ways of observing my classmates more than trying to find my voice. But starting in sophomore year, I definitely started to get more confident in myself, and I joined a lot of new clubs and took initiative in doing a lot of things like student ambassadors and ASB and my API club because I wanted to find people that were like me. And then I was super honored in my junior year where I was able to be I got asked to be a leader or president of our API club as a junior, and our student ambassador program as well with a fellow student. And that was definitely a really big time of transitioning too, of kind of being seen as a leader. And that was a really cool experience because I didn't really view myself that way before. But I definitely felt more confident in myself. And then starting senior year, it was kind of the same thing of just continuing to learn how to be a better leader and to be the student that I want to be, especially going into college, to kind of have that posture of still exploring myself as a learner and leader and how I want to be like that in school. And so I've kind of just been continuing on with that, and then going into the future, I've committed to Wellesley College, which is on the East Coast, so definitely super far away from my family, which I'm going to be super sad about, but I feel super excited to kind of figure myself out as a learner and leader more in college in a bigger, different space. Yeah, I think a big one is my junior year. I think that was a super big transition for me because it was the start of us being able to take honors classes and stuff, and like I had never really taken anything more than just like the normal classes that we have, and being a leader and trying to figure out the best way to be a good leader to the clubs I was in was super challenging. And I even like it was a super stressful time for me, and I even one time like broke out in stress hives because I was just like going through so much, and that was like a really hard time for me because I also wasn't great at reaching out for help. But I think that pushed me to kind of talk to my family more and my friends, and creating stronger connections with my teachers to be able to kind of get through those challenges, and knowing that like I don't have to go through it alone, and that there were like supports for me, and taking more initiative in that way instead of kind of sticking to doing things by myself. So that was like a big challenge that I overcame. I'm definitely super proud of this like event that we're doing that I was talking about. We're planning our Culture Fest because for me, our Asian American and Pacific Islander community within our school is like super small, and there's only like maybe 10 of us within the school. And so being able to host something that feels so big, it kind of just started with our school when I was in like sophomore year, and then last year was the first time that we kind of opened it up to all of the other high schools and middle schools and elementary schools to come over and to be a part of it, and to like have the other cultural clubs kind of help with making it this big thing. And that feels super great because it feels like we're showing ourselves in a bigger way, even though there's not that many of us, and it just feels super great to be a part of that kind of like movement with our Asian and Pacific Islander students. Yeah, I think I can talk more about the Culture Fest. This is kind of like the end tail of the planning. Just today or just this week, we had like two separate meetings to kind of talk through with our students of like what the jobs are, what our schedule's gonna look like, and kind of just getting them prepared. But we've started planning like a few months ago of just kind of like starting getting the ball running of like, hey, this is gonna happen and we wanna plan this, and let's start brainstorming things that we wanna do at this and how we want it to look like, which is there's a lot of like before planning with my other co-president of our club, of us talking with our also like our teacher or advisor of the club, and what is really possible for us. And then we bring it to the rest of our club and we kind of talk about that together. And this year, we also kind of wanted to put more steps in between. So we wanted to create foods that we could bring and sell and also just give out for free to our community that are big parts of our identities. And so we held food making days for our club, which was really fun to kind of practice that. So that way, when it comes tomorrow, then we kind of already know what works for us of the like, who's making what and how much time we need. So we did a lot of those, and then also just kind of like talked through it every single meeting of like, okay, what's next, and like what things do we need to get, and how can we make sure that also it's not all falling on me and the other co-president, and that we're still delegating tasks so that way they can also feel more autonomy in their part in this event. Yeah, so we also, at our school, we have like this internship, and that's kind of how I figured out what I wanted to do and where I want to go, like career-wise and education-wise. I did my internship at a lab at UCSD, and it was based on like genetics and stuff, and certain mutations in genetics, and trying to find like an answer for why those are happening and how can we make a better like day-to-day life for an individual that has those gene mutations. And that was super fascinating to me. I loved being in the lab. I loved doing research, and that's how I figured out that like I want to study biology and genetics and like molecular biology in college, so that's what I'm going in for. And then I also want to become a researcher. I want to work in like academia, so I'm definitely going to look for more opportunities to do internships and research with professors with things that I'm interested in, and that's definitely possible at the college that I'm going to, and that's what I was kind of looking for within colleges, of those opportunities to have closer connections with my professors, so that way I could get amazing opportunities of like working with them in a lab and doing research with them. I for success to me is definitely being stable with like my income. I definitely don't want to feel like I'm struggling to like live day to day and just pay for like food and all of that. But I think another version of success to me is loving what I do and feeling very like content with my life and what I'm doing and what I'm continuing to work towards. I don't ever want to feel like stagnant, I guess. I want to always feel like I'm working towards something, which I feel like with working at a lab is kind of my idea of that, of you're still always kind of working towards something, and there's always going to be something new to learn and a new challenge that you have to overcome. And for me, success is like doing that and also feeling really happy about the work that I'm doing. So kind of with the lab that I interned at, about helping individuals have a better day-to-day life, that's something that is the goal of being in the lab for me, is doing research so that way I can help people, and that also feels like a version of success for me. I think at first, if I like don't really know anyone in the room, I kind of fall back to that like observant, and I feel like people can take that more as like maybe that I'm like judging or something, or just like super quiet and shy and like not really putting myself out there. And I think that's like kind of it. I'm like quiet, and but it's more of that like observing aspect of just wanting to make sure that like I kind of like watching everyone and knowing and better understanding everyone, and that's how I know how to like best interact with students and with like my classmates and just other like workplaces that I'm in, is by observing, so that way I can like read them and kind of read what's the best like thing to do in certain situations. Yeah. Yeah, I think another big part of my journey, I guess, as like a student and a leader, which I didn't really talk about in the first question, was I started doing robotics when I was in middle school. I started with this thing called like First Lego League, which is these like small Lego robots. And then coming into high school, we have a team called the Holy Cows, and the version of that from middle school is first robotics competition. So it's building these like 125-pound robots that like play games against each other. So not exactly like battle bots, but it's still super fun. I think being a part of the team really helped me, because I think being part of a club is kind of the same thing, but it's different when you're on a team and you're working towards like winning and towards like competing at competitions and stuff like that. And I think I've grown as like being a part of a team and becoming a leader, because through that I've been in robotics all 4 years of high school, and before I was just one of 3 girls on the team, and then I started like working my way up, and I learned to be more I learned to be better at initiating, because if I just sat there, I wouldn't get to learn anything, and people probably would just be like, oh, she's just another girl who's just here for whatever. But I learned to take initiative and do all these cool things of building the robot and being a part of the whole process, and showing that I think some people in robotics might think girls are just there for like the social media and like doing those kind of business side of things, but that I'm also like a vital part of that engineering aspect, and like putting myself out there. And I became a manager my junior year as well in robotics, and so that was really cool. And I've also been another part of the like vital parts of the robotics team, which is being the operator at competitions. You have an operator and a driver for the robots, and I was chosen to be operator all 4 years of high school, and so that was super great. And being put in stressful situations was definitely like a big challenge for me, but I think the kind of observant part of me was able to kind of assess whenever we had like a match, and I was able to like calm myself down and just get in the mode of like, what do we need to do to win, and to compete well. I think that also kind of like changed me as like a leader and the way that I observe life. Yeah.